What if I told you that a simple quarter sitting in an old drawer, forgotten piggy bank, or dusty coin collection could be worth far more than 25 cents? Imagine finding a coin that millions of people have handled over the decades, only to discover that certain versions have become highly sought-after treasures among collectors. Today, we're diving into the fascinating story of the 1960 Washington quarter, a coin that may not be a cryptocurrency at all, but has generated excitement, speculation, and treasure-hunting dreams that rival some of the biggest investment crazes in history. Picture this. It's 1960. America is entering a new decade filled with optimism, innovation, and change. The Washington quarter has already been circulating for nearly 3 decades, becoming one of the most recognizable coins in the United States. Most people spend it without a second thought. It buys everyday items, passes through cash registers, and moves from hand to hand across the country. But decades later, collectors begin paying close attention to certain 1960 quarters, especially those with unique characteristics, exceptional condition, or rare minting variations. The 1960 Washington quarter is part of a series first introduced in 1932 to commemorate the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth. Designed by sculptor John Flanagan, the coin features Washington's portrait on the front and an eagle on the reverse. Unlike modern quarters made with a copper-nickel composition, the 1960 quarter contains 90% silver. That fact alone immediately gives it intrinsic value beyond its face value. Now, you might be wondering, what problem does this coin solve? After all, it's not a blockchain project, it doesn't run smart contracts, and it certainly doesn't power a decentralized network. But in the world of collectibles and precious metals, the 1960 Washington quarter solves a different kind of problem. It represents a tangible store of value. While digital assets exist only in electronic form, a silver quarter is something you can physically hold. During periods of inflation, economic uncertainty, or market volatility, many investors and collectors look toward hard assets like silver coins as a way to preserve wealth. Think about it this way. If someone had saved a handful of silver quarters decades ago instead of spending them, those coins would likely be worth significantly more today than their original face value. The silver content alone provides a foundation of value, while collector demand can push certain examples much higher. What makes the 1960 Washington quarter particularly interesting is the combination of precious metal content, historical significance, and collectible appeal. Every coin tells a story. This quarter traveled through a different America, an America before smartphones, before the internet, and before digital payments became common. Each scratch, mark, and sign of wear reflects decades of history. When collectors discuss the technology behind a coin like this, they're really talking about minting technology. In 1960, the United States Mint used sophisticated coin production methods for its era, striking millions of quarters with remarkable consistency. Coins were produced primarily at the Philadelphia Mint and the Denver Mint. Some examples feature proof finishes created specifically for collectors. These proof coins display sharp details and mirror-like surfaces that make them especially desirable. The real excitement often comes from varieties and errors. Coin collectors love discovering differences that set one coin apart from another. A tiny variation in a die, an unusual strike, or a manufacturing anomaly can transform an ordinary-looking quarter into a highly sought-after collectible. That's one reason why people continue searching through old collections and inherited coin jars. The possibility of finding something special keeps the hunt alive. Behind every great collectible is a fascinating background story, and the 1960 Washington quarter is no exception. It comes from a period when silver was still a standard component of American coinage. Just a few years later, rising silver prices would lead to major changes in U.S. coins. By 1965, the United States began moving away from silver in circulating quarters. That means the 1960 quarter belongs to a shrinking era of American monetary history. The team behind the coin includes the artists, engravers, and mint officials responsible for producing U.S. coinage. George Washington's portrait was created based on earlier artistic works, while the overall design reflected a desire to honor one of America's most important historical figures. Unlike modern cryptocurrency projects led by developers and founders, this coin was created by one of the most established institutions in the world, the United States Mint. Let's talk about performance and growth potential because this is where things become really interesting. Most circulated 1960 quarters are not worth a fortune. However, their silver content ensures they typically trade above face value. Meanwhile, high-grade examples, especially those certified by professional grading services, can command significantly higher prices. Certain proof coins and exceptionally preserved specimens may sell for hundreds or even thousands of dollars depending on rarity, condition, and market demand. Imagine two identical quarters produced in the same year. One spends decades circulating through stores, vending machines, and cash registers. The other is carefully preserved, protected from wear, and stored safely for generations. Today, those two coins may have dramatically different values. Condition matters enormously in the coin collecting world. This creates a fascinating dynamic. Collectors aren't simply buying metal. They're buying rarity, preservation, history, and the story behind a specific piece of American currency. That's why some collectors spend years searching for the finest known examples. So why are people still talking about the 1960 Washington quarter? Part of the answer lies in the growing popularity of alternative investments. As traditional markets experience ups and downs, many people explore collectibles, precious metals, and historical artifacts. Social media has also played a major role. Videos showcasing valuable coins, hidden in everyday change, have attracted millions of views. Stories about rare quarters selling for surprising amounts of money inspire countless viewers to check their own collections. There's also a treasure hunting element that people love. Unlike many investments that require large amounts of capital, coin collecting can begin with a simple search through old family belongings. Every collector dreams of discovering a hidden gem. Maybe it's tucked away in an inherited collection. Maybe it's sitting unnoticed in a forgotten box. The possibility alone creates excitement. The emotional connection matters too. Coins are physical links to the past. They connect generations. A 1960 quarter may have been carried by a grandparent, saved by a parent, and eventually passed down to a child. That personal history often adds value beyond what any price guide can measure. But no discussion would be complete without addressing the risks and challenges. One of the biggest misconceptions in coin collecting is the belief that every old coin is automatically valuable. Age alone doesn't guarantee rarity or high prices. Many 1960 quarters were produced in large quantities. As a result, common examples are generally valued based on silver content and condition rather than extreme rarity. Counterfeits and misleading claims can also create problems. Whenever collectibles become valuable, dishonest sellers sometimes attempt to exploit inexperienced buyers. That's why serious collectors often rely on professional grading and authentication services. Knowledge becomes one of the most important tools in the hobby. Market demand can fluctuate as well. Prices rise and fall depending on collector interest, silver prices, economic conditions, and broader trends. Someone hoping for instant riches may be disappointed. Successful collectors typically view the hobby as a long-term pursuit rather than a quick profit opportunity. Looking ahead, what might the future hold for the 1960 Washington quarter? Several factors suggest continued interest. First, the number of surviving high-quality examples is limited. Every year, pristine specimens become increasingly difficult to find. Second, silver continues to attract investors who appreciate tangible assets. Third, younger generations are discovering coin collecting through online content, educational videos, and social media communities. As digital assets become more common, physical collectibles may actually gain a unique appeal. There's something powerful about holding a piece of history in your hand. No password is required. No internet connection is needed. The coin simply exists as a tangible reminder of another era. Could a 1960 Washington quarter ever reach extraordinary values? For average circulated examples, probably not. But exceptional specimens, rare varieties, and top-grade certified coins may continue attracting strong collector interest. History has repeatedly shown that rarity and demand can create remarkable outcomes in the collectibles market. The most important lesson from the story of the 1960 Washington quarter isn't necessarily about money. It's about awareness. Sometimes valuable opportunities are hidden in plain sight. A coin that appears ordinary at first glance may carry historical significance, precious metal value, and collector demand all at once. The difference between spending it and preserving it can be substantial. So the next time you come across an old coin collection, don't dismiss it as spare change. Take a closer look. Research what you have. Learn the stories behind the coins. You may discover far more than metal and numbers. You may uncover a piece of history that has survived for generations. And that's what makes the 1960 Washington quarter so fascinating. It's not a cryptocurrency. It doesn't rely on blockchain technology. Yet it captures many of the same emotions that drive modern investing. Curiosity, speculation, opportunity, and the thrill of discovery. It reminds us that value can come from history, scarcity, craftsmanship, and human fascination. If you enjoyed learning about this remarkable coin, start exploring your own collection today. Check those old jars, inherited boxes, and forgotten albums. You never know what treasure might be waiting. The next great discovery could be sitting much closer than you think, quietly holding its secrets until someone takes the time to look. What if I told you that a simple 25-cent coin sitting unnoticed in a drawer could be worth far more than its face value, and that collectors across the country are constantly searching for the right example? Most people walk past old coins every day without giving them a second thought. But hidden among ordinary pocket change and forgotten collections are pieces of history that tell incredible stories. And today, we're diving into one of those fascinating treasures, the 1961 Washington $quarter coin. Imagine opening an old box that belonged to a grandparent. Inside, you find a handful of silver coins. At first glance, they look ordinary. But then you notice a date, 1961. Suddenly, you're holding a small piece of American history that has survived more than 6 decades. The question is, what makes this coin special, and why are collectors still talking about it today? The 1961 Washington quarter is part of one of the most iconic coin series in American history. The Washington quarter first appeared in 1932 to honor George Washington, the first president of the United States. By 1961, the design had already become a familiar sight in American commerce. Millions of these quarters passed through cash registers, vending machines, and everyday transactions. Yet, despite being common at the time, surviving examples in excellent condition have become increasingly desirable to collectors. One of the first things that makes the 1961 Washington quarter stand out is its composition. Unlike modern quarters, which are made from a copper-nickel blend, the 1961 quarter contains 90% silver. That's right. Every genuine 1961 Washington quarter contains real silver, giving it intrinsic value beyond its face value. In a world where precious metals continue to attract investors and collectors alike, that silver content alone captures attention. Now, you might be wondering what problem a coin like this solves. After all, it isn't a cryptocurrency, it doesn't power a blockchain, and it doesn't run on advanced technology. But in a different way, it serves an important purpose. The 1961 Washington quarter represents something many people are seeking today: a tangible store of historical and precious metal value. Think about it. Digital assets exist on screens. Bank balances exist in databases. But a silver quarter from 1961 is something you can physically hold. It survived changing economies, technological revolutions, and generations of ownership. For many collectors, owning historical silver coins provides a sense of connection to the past that digital assets simply cannot replicate. When it comes to technology, the story becomes even more interesting. While this coin doesn't operate on blockchain technology, it represents some of the most advanced minting technology available during its era. The United States Mint produced these quarters with remarkable precision. Each coin features George Washington's portrait on the front and an eagle design on the reverse. The craftsmanship, engraving techniques, and production standards of the time helped create coins that could withstand decades of circulation. Collectors often pay close attention to details that casual observers might miss. Mint marks, strike quality, luster, and preservation all play major roles in determining a coin's value. A heavily worn 1961 quarter might be worth only its silver content plus a collector premium. However, a well-preserved example with exceptional eye appeal can command significantly higher prices. One particularly exciting area involves proof coins. Proof quarters from 1961 were specially manufactured for collectors using polished dies and carefully prepared planchets. These coins often display mirror-like surfaces and extraordinary detail. Because they were produced with collectors in mind, many proof examples remain in outstanding condition today. Nevertheless, the finest examples can still generate significant excitement in the numismatic community. The background behind the coin is deeply tied to the history of the United States Mint. During the early 1960s, America was entering a transformative period. The space race was heating up. Technology was advancing rapidly. Society was changing. Yet throughout all these developments, silver coins like the 1961 quarter continued circulating throughout everyday American life. Millions of Americans used these coins without realizing that only a few years later, silver would begin disappearing from circulating U.S. coinage. By 1965, the United States shifted away from the traditional 90% silver composition for quarters. As a result, every 1961 quarter represents part of the final era of regular silver circulation coinage in America. Now let's talk about market performance and growth potential, because this is where many collectors become especially interested. The value of a 1961 Washington quarter depends on several factors. Condition is perhaps the most important. Coins graded in lower circulated conditions typically remain affordable, making them accessible to beginners. On the other hand, high-grade uncirculated examples can become much more valuable. Professional grading services evaluate coins using detailed standards. A difference of just 1 or 2 grading points can dramatically affect market value. That's why collectors carefully examine surfaces, luster, strike quality, and overall preservation. Silver prices also play an important role. Since the coin contains silver, fluctuations in precious metal markets directly influence its baseline value. When silver prices rise, the intrinsic value of silver quarters tends to increase as well. This creates an interesting dynamic where collectors benefit from both numismatic demand and precious metal demand. So why are people talking about the 1961 Washington quarter today? The answer comes down to a combination of nostalgia, scarcity in top condition, and growing interest in tangible assets. In recent years, many people have become fascinated by collectibles. Trading cards, vintage toys, comic books, and rare coins have all experienced renewed attention. Coins offer a unique advantage because they combine history, artistry, and precious metal content in a single collectible item. Social media has also played a role. Videos showing valuable coins discovered in pocket change or old collections have attracted millions of views. Stories of people finding rare coins worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars create excitement and curiosity. As a result, more people are examining old coin jars and inherited collections than ever before. There's also a psychological aspect. Holding a coin that has existed since 1961 creates a connection across generations. Think about everything that has happened since that year. Presidents have come and gone. Technologies have transformed daily life. Entire industries have emerged. Yet this small silver coin remains, carrying its story through time. Of course, every collectible market comes with risks and challenges. One of the biggest misconceptions is that every old coin is automatically valuable. Age alone does not guarantee rarity or high prices. The 1961 quarter was produced in substantial numbers, meaning many examples still exist today. Condition remains critical. A worn coin may not command a significant premium beyond its silver value. Collectors must also be cautious about cleaning coins. Many beginners make the mistake of polishing old coins to make them look better. Ironically, cleaning often reduces collector value because it alters the original surface. Counterfeits and misrepresentations can also present challenges. While counterfeit 1961 quarters are not among the most common fake coins, buyers should always purchase valuable examples from reputable dealers or seek professional authentication when appropriate. Market fluctuations represent another consideration. Coin values can rise and fall depending on collector demand, economic conditions, and precious metal prices. Like any collectible or investment-related asset, there are no guarantees. Looking ahead, what does the future hold for the 1961 Washington quarter? Many experts believe that interest in historic silver coinage will remain strong. Younger generations are increasingly discovering coin collecting through online platforms and educational content. At the same time, the supply of high-grade examples remains limited because pristine coins become harder to find as decades pass. The historical significance of pre-1965 silver coinage may continue attracting both collectors and precious metal enthusiasts. As more people seek tangible assets with real-world history, coins like the 1961 Washington quarter could maintain their appeal. There is also the possibility that future generations will view these coins as important artifacts from a disappearing monetary era. After all, modern circulation coins no longer contain silver. Every surviving 1961 quarter represents a link to a different chapter of American economic history. Whether you're a seasoned collector or someone who has never examined a coin beyond its face value, the 1961 Washington quarter offers a fascinating journey into history, craftsmanship, and value. It reminds us that extraordinary stories can hide inside ordinary objects. The next time you come across an old coin collection, don't dismiss it as spare change. Take a closer look. Examine the dates. Research the details. You never know what piece of history might be sitting right in front of you. The 1961 Washington quarter is more than a 25-cent coin. It's a survivor from another era, a silver relic of American history, and a collectible that continues to capture the imagination of enthusiasts around the world. And that brings us to the big question. Do you already own one without realizing it? Check your coin jars, family collections, and inherited keepsakes. You might be surprised by what you find. If you enjoyed learning about the 1961 Washington quarter, keep exploring the world of rare coins because some of the most fascinating treasures aren't hidden in vaults or museums. They're hiding in plain sight, waiting to be discovered.
What if I told you that a simple quarter sitting in an old drawer, forgotten piggy bank, or dusty coin jar could be worth far more than 25 cents? Imagine discovering that a coin most people would spend without a second thought might actually be a hidden treasure. Today, we're diving into the fascinating story of a 1962 Washington $quarter coin, a coin surrounded by history, collector excitement, and the possibility of surprising value. At first glance, the 1962 Washington quarter looks ordinary. Millions of Americans use these coins every day to buy groceries, pay for parking, and make small purchases. Yet, decades later, collectors across the world still search for certain examples of this coin. Some are willing to pay impressive amounts of money for quarters that appear almost identical to the ones many people ignore. To understand why this coin attracts so much attention, we need to go back in time. The Washington Quarter series was first introduced in 1932 to honor George Washington, the first president of the United States. By 1962, the design had already become one of the most recognizable coins in American history. The front of the coin featured Washington's portrait, while the reverse displayed a majestic eagle, symbolizing strength and freedom. The 1962 quarter was produced during an interesting period in American coinage. At that time, quarters were still made from 90% silver and 10% copper. This is one of the biggest reasons collectors care about these coins today. Unlike modern quarters, which contain no silver for circulation purposes, the 1962 quarter contains real precious metal. That alone gives it an intrinsic value beyond its face value. Now, you might be wondering what problem this coin solves. Unlike modern cryptocurrencies or technology projects that aim to solve digital challenges, the value proposition of the 1962 Washington quarter is different. It serves as a store of historical and precious metal value. Think about it this way. Inflation gradually reduces the purchasing power of money over time. A quarter in 1962 could buy much more than a quarter can today. Yet because this coin contains silver, its metal content has helped preserve part of its value through the decades. Imagine two people. One spends a quarter in 1962 on a soda. The other saves that same silver quarter. Fast forward to today, and that saved coin may be worth many times its original face value, depending on its condition, rarity, and silver prices. That's a powerful lesson about scarcity, preservation, and collecting. The real excitement begins when we talk about what makes certain 1962 quarters special. Not all examples are created equal. Millions were produced, but collectors are obsessed with quality. Coins that survive decades without significant work can command dramatically higher prices. A heavily circulated coin may be worth only its silver content plus a small collector premium. However, an exceptionally preserved coin can become something entirely different. This is where the story becomes fascinating. Imagine a coin leaving the United States Mint in 1962. It enters circulation and spends years changing hands. It gets dropped, scratched, worn down, and exposed to the elements. Most coins follow this path, but occasionally one is carefully stored away, protected from damage, and preserved almost exactly as it appeared when it was first minted. Those rare survivors are the coins collectors dream about finding. The technology behind the coin may not involve blockchains or smart contracts, but it does involve advanced minting processes for its era. The United States Mint used high-pressure dies to strike designs into metal blanks. Precision was critical because even the smallest variations could create collectible errors. Coin collectors pay close attention to strike quality, luster, and surface preservation. One of the most exciting aspects of coin collecting is the possibility of mint errors. While most 1962 quarters were produced correctly, error coins occasionally slip through quality control. These errors can include doubled dies, off-center strikes, and other unusual manufacturing anomalies. Such mistakes often become highly desirable because they're significantly rarer than standard issues. Another factor that drives interest is the absence or presence of mint marks. In 1962, quarters were produced at different mint facilities. Collectors carefully examine these details because certain varieties may be scarcer than others. The difference between an ordinary coin and a valuable collectible can sometimes come down to a tiny detail that many people would never notice. Unlike a modern company or cryptocurrency project with founders and executives, the story of the 1962 quarter is tied to the United States Mint and the broader history of American coinage. The coin represents an era when silver still played an important role in everyday money. Just a few years later, rising silver prices would lead to major changes in U.S. coin production. By 1965, circulating quarters no longer contained silver. That historical transition makes pre-1965 quarters especially significant to collectors. When discussing market performance, the 1962 Washington quarter has shown remarkable resilience over time. Its value depends on several factors. Silver prices influence its base worth. Collector demand influences premiums. Condition influences everything. In lower grades, the coin may be worth a modest amount above silver value. In higher grades, especially professionally graded examples, values can rise dramatically. The coin market operates much like other collectible markets. Scarcity, demand, and condition drive prices. A common coin in average condition may not generate headlines, but a near-perfect specimen can attract serious bidding from collectors who want the best examples available. Why are people still talking about this coin more than 60 years after it was minted? The answer lies in a combination of nostalgia, precious metals, history, and treasure hunting excitement. People love the idea that valuable items might be hiding in plain sight. Every old coin jar becomes a potential treasure chest. Every inherited collection becomes an adventure waiting to be explored. Social media and online marketplaces have amplified this excitement. Stories regularly appear about rare coins selling for impressive sums. Whether it's a high-grade quarter, a rare mint error, or an overlooked variety, these stories inspire thousands of people to check their own collections. The possibility of discovery keeps interest alive. There's also something deeply satisfying about holding a piece of history. This coin existed during the early 1960s, a transformative period in American history. It circulated during the space race, the Cold War, and a time of significant social and cultural change. Every scratch and mark tells part of the story. Of course, there are risks and challenges. One of the biggest misconceptions is that every 1962 quarter is automatically worth a fortune. That simply isn't true. Many coins have only modest value. Condition matters enormously. Counterfeit coins and exaggerated online claims can also mislead inexperienced buyers and sellers. Another challenge is grading. Determining a coin's true condition requires expertise. Small differences in preservation can mean huge differences in value. That's why serious collectors often rely on professional grading services to authenticate and evaluate important coins. The future outlook for the 1962 Washington quarter remains intriguing. Interest in tangible assets continues to attract collectors. Silver remains a globally recognized precious metal. Historical collectibles continue to appeal to new generations. As high-quality examples become increasingly difficult to find, competition for the best specimens may continue. Imagine 20 years from now. Many surviving coins will remain in collections, museums, and long-term holdings. Finding pristine examples could become even more challenging. Scarcity has a way of becoming more meaningful as time passes. The most exciting possibility is that countless examples may still be sitting unnoticed in family collections. Somewhere, an old box of coins could contain a beautifully preserved 1962 quarter waiting to be discovered. That sense of mystery keeps collectors searching year after year. At the end of the day, the 1962 Washington quarter is more than just a coin. It's a piece of American history, a silver artifact from a different era, and a reminder that value can come from unexpected places. It represents the intersection of history, precious metals, craftsmanship, and human curiosity. So the next time you come across an old coin collection, don't dismiss it too quickly. Take a closer look, examine the dates, check the condition, learn the story behind what you're holding. You might not just be looking at 25 cents. You might be holding a small piece of history with a story that has survived for more than 6 decades. And who knows, the next great discovery might be sitting in a forgotten drawer, waiting for someone curious enough to notice it. If you enjoyed learning about the 1962 Washington quarter and want to uncover more hidden treasures from the world of coins and collectibles, make sure to follow, subscribe, and stay tuned for more fascinating stories. Because sometimes the most valuable treasures aren't buried underground. They're already in our hands.
What if I told you that a single 25-cent coin could be worth hundreds, thousands, or even tens of thousands of dollars? And what if that coin was sitting unnoticed in a collection, a drawer, or an old family coin jar? Today, we're diving into one of the most fascinating treasures in American coin collecting history, the 1963 Washington quarter with no mint mark. This is a coin that looks ordinary at first glance, but its story, rarity, and value have captured the attention of collectors across the world. At first, you might be wondering why people would get excited about a quarter minted more than 60 years ago. After all, it's just 25 cents, right? Well, not exactly. In the world of rare coins, small details can make an enormous difference. A tiny variation, exceptional condition, or unique historical significance can transform an everyday coin into a prized collectible worth far more than its face value. The 1963 Washington quarter belongs to the famous Washington quarter series that began in 1932 to honor George Washington, the first president of the United States. These quarters became a familiar part of everyday American life. Millions of them passed through cash registers, vending machines, and people's pockets. Most people spent them without giving them a second thought. The 1963 quarter was produced before the United States switched away from silver coinage for circulation. That means these coins contain 90% silver and 10% copper. Even before considering collector value, the silver content alone gives these quarters an intrinsic worth that is significantly higher than 25 cents. Now here's where things get interesting. Many people hear the phrase "no mint mark" and immediately assume they have found something rare. In 1963, quarters produced at the Philadelphia Mint did not carry a mint mark. That means a 1963 quarter without a mint mark was actually normal for coins struck in Philadelphia. However, that doesn't mean these coins are worthless. Far from it. Certain examples, especially those in exceptional condition or with rare errors, can command impressive prices in the collector market. So what problem does this coin solve? Unlike cryptocurrencies that often aim to solve digital financial challenges, the 1963 Washington quarter solves something very different. It represents a store of historical value. It gives collectors a tangible connection to America's past. In a world increasingly dominated by digital assets and electronic transactions, this coin offers something physical, something you can hold in your hand. Think about it this way. Many people invest in stocks, real estate, precious metals, or digital currencies because they hope those assets will appreciate over time. Coin collectors pursue rare coins for a similar reason. They preserve history while potentially increasing in value. A rare coin can act as both a collectible and a long-term asset. Imagine a teenager in 1963 receiving one of these quarters as pocket change. At that time, it was simply money used to buy a snack, ride a bus, or play an arcade game. Decades later, that same coin could become a valuable collectible, especially if it remained in pristine condition. That's the magic of numismatics, the study and collection of coins. The technology behind the 1963 Washington quarter is obviously very different from blockchain technology. Instead of digital ledgers and cryptographic networks, this coin represents the advanced minting technology of its era. The United States Mint employed sophisticated machinery to strike millions of coins with remarkable precision. Every detail of George Washington's portrait, every letter, every ridge along the edge was carefully engineered to create consistency. One feature that makes these coins especially notable is their silver composition. Prior to 1965, circulating quarters contained real silver. This gives the coin an additional layer of value beyond its collectible appeal. Even common examples are often saved because of their silver content. Collectors also pay close attention to strike quality, luster, surface preservation, and potential minting errors. Some 1963 quarters may exhibit double dies, off-center strikes, or other unusual characteristics. These rare variations can dramatically increase value. In the collecting world, a tiny manufacturing anomaly can become a highly sought-after treasure. When discussing the background of the coin, it's important to understand the historical environment in which it was produced. The early 1960s were a period of major change in America. The nation was experiencing technological growth, cultural transformation, and economic expansion. Coinage demand was increasing, and the mint was producing large quantities of coins to keep up with circulation needs. The Washington quarter design itself had already become iconic by 1963. Sculptor John Flanagan's portrait of George Washington had been appearing on quarters for decades. The design became instantly recognizable to generations of Americans. This familiarity adds to the coin's nostalgic appeal today. Now let's talk about market performance because this is where things become truly exciting. A typical circulated 1963 Washington quarter may not be worth a fortune, but it often sells for more than its face value due to silver content. However, high-grade examples certified by professional grading services can achieve significantly higher prices. Condition is everything in coin collecting. Two coins minted in the same year can have dramatically different values depending on preservation. A quarter that spent decades bouncing around in pockets and cash registers might be worth only its silver value. Meanwhile, a pristine coin with sharp details, brilliant luster, and virtually nowhere could sell for hundreds or even thousands of dollars. Auction records have shown that exceptionally preserved examples of silver Washington quarters can command surprisingly strong prices. The difference between ordinary and extraordinary often comes down to quality. That's why collectors examine coins so carefully under magnification. So why are people talking about this coin right now? One reason is the growing popularity of treasure hunting through pocket change, coin rolls, estate sales, and inherited collections. Social media platforms have introduced millions of people to the world of coin collecting. Videos showing valuable coins discovered in everyday places have generated enormous interest. Another reason is the increasing awareness of precious metals. As silver prices fluctuate, older silver coins attract additional attention from investors and collectors alike. People realize that these coins are more than just currency. They are pieces of history made from a precious metal. There is also a powerful emotional element involved. Finding a valuable coin creates a sense of discovery that few hobbies can match. It's like uncovering a hidden artifact from the past. Every collector dreams of finding a rare gem hiding in plain sight. Of course, there are risks and challenges. One of the biggest challenges is misinformation. Many online claims dramatically exaggerate coin values. Someone may see a listing asking thousands of dollars for a common coin and assume their coin is worth the same amount. In reality, asking prices and actual sale prices can be very different. Another challenge involves grading. Determining a coin's condition requires experience and expertise. Small differences in preservation can have enormous effects on value. A coin that appears perfect to an untrained eye may receive a lower grade from professional experts. Counterfeits and altered coins also exist in the marketplace. Collectors must educate themselves and often rely on trusted grading services to authenticate valuable pieces. Knowledge is one of the most important tools in the hobby. Looking toward the future, the outlook for historically significant silver coins remains fascinating. As time passes, high-quality examples become increasingly scarce. Coins are lost, damaged, melted, or permanently absorbed into private collections. This gradual reduction in available supply can strengthen demand for exceptional specimens. Future generations may become even more interested in tangible historical artifacts. In a world where so much of life is digital, physical collectibles carry a unique appeal. The 1963 Washington Quarter represents a snapshot of American history frozen in metal. That story does not fade with time. In many ways, it becomes more compelling. Could every 1963 no-mint mark quarter become extremely valuable? Probably not. But could certain examples continue to appreciate due to rarity, condition, historical significance, and collector demand? Absolutely. That's what keeps enthusiasts searching, studying, and collecting. The real lesson here goes beyond money. The 1963 Washington Quarter reminds us that extraordinary value can hide inside ordinary objects. Something that once bought a simple purchase decades ago can now tell a story about history, craftsmanship, economics, and preservation. So the next time you come across an old coin collection, inherit a box of family keepsakes, or discover a silver quarter tucked away in a drawer, don't dismiss it too quickly. Take a closer look. Examine the details. Learn its story. You might be holding more than a coin. You might be holding a piece of American history. And who knows? That seemingly ordinary quarter could be the beginning of an exciting journey into the fascinating world of rare coin collecting. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the 1963 Washington Quarter with no mint mark, make sure to like, subscribe, and share this video with fellow collectors and treasure hunters. Let us know in the comments whether you've ever found a valuable coin in your change. And stay tuned for more incredible stories about hidden treasures that could be worth far more than anyone expects.
What if I told you that a simple quarter sitting in an old jar, forgotten in a drawer, or hidden inside a coin collection could be worth far more than 25 cents? In fact, some people have spent decades searching for one particular coin because of its history, rarity, and incredible collector demand. Today, we're diving into the fascinating story of the 1964 Washington Quarter, a coin that continues to capture the attention of collectors, investors, and treasure hunters around the world. Imagine this. You're cleaning out your grandparents' attic. You find an old box filled with loose change. Most people would glance at it and move on. But what if one of those quarters turned out to be a small piece of American history with the potential to be worth hundreds, thousands, or even more depending on its condition and unique characteristics? That's exactly why the 1964 Washington Quarter has become one of the most talked about coins in the collecting community. The 1964 Washington Quarter is not a cryptocurrency. It's a real, physical coin produced by the United States Mint. However, in many ways, it shares something important with valuable digital assets: scarcity, demand, and the excitement of ownership. Collectors chase it for many of the same reasons investors chase rare assets. They believe its historical significance and limited supply make it desirable for the future. The story begins in 1964, a pivotal year in American coinage. This was the last year that Washington quarters were made from 90% silver. After 1964, rising silver prices forced the United States government to change the composition of its circulated coins. Beginning in 1965, quarters were produced using a copper-nickel-clad composition instead of precious silver. That single change transformed the 1964 quarter into something special. It became the final chapter of an era. Every authentic 1964 Washington quarter contains real silver, making it instantly more appealing than modern quarters from a precious metal perspective. For collectors, it represents the end of traditional silver coinage in everyday American commerce. Now, you might be wondering what problem this coin solves. Unlike a modern technology project or cryptocurrency platform, the 1964 Washington quarter wasn't designed to solve a digital problem, but it does solve something interesting for collectors and investors. It offers a tangible store of historical and intrinsic value. In a world increasingly dominated by digital assets, many people enjoy owning something they can actually hold in their hands. Think of it like owning a piece of history rather than simply reading about it. Every 1964 quarter passed through countless hands during a transformative period in American history. It witnessed changing economies, shifting markets, and decades of cultural evolution. For many collectors, that connection to the past is priceless. Another reason people seek these quarters is their silver content. Even common examples have value beyond their face value, because silver itself is a precious metal. While a modern quarter is generally worth 25 cents unless it has a rare error, a 1964 silver quarter often carries additional value based on both its silver content and collector demand. Let's talk about what makes certain examples particularly valuable. Not all 1964 quarters are created equal. Some are ordinary, circulated pieces that have spent years in cash registers and pockets. Others have survived in extraordinary condition. And then there are the rare error coins that collectors dream about finding. Coin errors can occur during the minting process. These mistakes may include double designs, off-center strikes, unusual die varieties, or other production anomalies. When such errors are discovered on a 1964 Washington quarter, collectors often become extremely interested because rarity drives demand. A common quarter may be worth only a modest amount, while a rare error coin could command significantly higher prices. Condition is another critical factor. Collectors use grading systems to evaluate coins. A heavily worn quarter might have limited premium value, but a quarter that looks almost exactly as it did when it left the mint decades ago can become highly desirable. The difference between average condition and exceptional condition can mean the difference between a small premium and a substantial collector value. The technology behind the 1964 Washington quarter isn't blockchain technology or decentralized networks. Instead, it's the sophisticated minting technology of its era. Each coin was carefully struck using precision dies designed to transfer detailed images onto metal blanks. The obverse features the portrait of George Washington, while the reverse showcases the iconic eagle design used before later modifications. Although this may seem simple compared to modern digital innovations, coin production itself is an impressive technological achievement. Millions of coins had to be manufactured with consistency, accuracy, and durability. The fact that so many 1964 quarters still exist today is a testament to the quality of their production. As for the background behind the coin, it is part of the long-running Washington quarter series, first introduced in 1932. The design honored George Washington and quickly became one of the most recognizable coins in American history. By 1964, the quarter had already been a familiar part of daily life for decades. The United States Mint produced enormous quantities of 1964 quarters because demand for coinage was high. Yet despite those large production numbers, collector interest remained strong. Why? Because this issue marks the final year of regular silver quarter production. Historical milestones often become collector favorites, and the 1964 quarter is a perfect example. Now let's discuss market performance and growth potential. Unlike stocks or cryptocurrencies that can experience dramatic daily price swings, collectible coins often follow longer-term trends. The value of silver plays a role, but collector demand is equally important. Over time, high-grade examples and rare varieties have attracted strong interest from serious collectors. Imagine two identical-looking quarters. One has been heavily worn through decades of circulation. The other was carefully preserved from the moment it was minted. To the average person, both might appear similar. To a collector, however, the pristine example could be dramatically more desirable. This distinction creates opportunities within the coin market. People are talking about the 1964 Washington quarter for several reasons. First, there is the treasure hunting aspect. Everyone loves the idea of discovering hidden value in everyday objects. Stories regularly circulate about valuable coins found in old collections, inherited estates, or forgotten containers of spare change. Second, social media has amplified interest in rare coins. Videos showcasing valuable discoveries often attract millions of views. Audiences become fascinated by the possibility that a seemingly ordinary coin could have extraordinary value. This excitement encourages more people to examine their own collections. Third, precious metals continue to attract attention during periods of economic uncertainty. Since the 1964 quarter contains silver, it benefits from both collector demand and interest in tangible assets. Many people appreciate owning something with intrinsic metal value rather than relying entirely on digital systems. Of course, there are risks and challenges. One of the biggest challenges is misinformation. Online claims sometimes exaggerate coin values, leading people to believe every 1964 quarter is worth a fortune. In reality, value depends on factors such as condition, rarity, mint characteristics, and authenticity. Counterfeit coins also present a challenge. As certain coins become more valuable, counterfeiters may attempt to create convincing imitations. This is why professional grading and authentication services play such an important role in the collector market. Market fluctuations are another consideration. Coin values can rise and fall based on collector interest, precious metal prices, and broader economic conditions. Anyone entering the hobby should focus on education and research rather than expecting guaranteed profits. Looking toward the future, the outlook for historically significant silver coins remains intriguing. The 1964 Washington quarter occupies a unique place in American numismatic history. It marks the end of a silver era, making it permanently significant regardless of changing trends. Future generations of collectors may continue to view it as an essential piece of any serious collection. As high-quality examples become increasingly difficult to find, competition for the best specimens could remain strong. Rare varieties and error coins may attract even greater attention as collectors seek standout pieces. There is also the possibility that growing interest in alternative assets could bring more attention to collectible coins. Just as some investors diversify into precious metals, art, or rare collectibles, coins offer another avenue for those seeking tangible assets with historical significance. At its core, the appeal of the 1964 Washington quarter goes beyond money. It represents history, craftsmanship, scarcity, and the thrill of discovery. It's a reminder that value can sometimes be hiding in plain sight. A simple coin that once bought everyday items decades ago now serves as a bridge between the past and the present. So the next time you come across an old collection of coins, don't rush to dismiss it. Take a closer look. Check the dates. Examine the details. You never know what stories those coins might tell or what hidden treasures might be waiting to be discovered. The 1964 Washington quarter continues to captivate collectors because it combines silver content, historical importance, and the excitement of rarity. Whether you're a seasoned numismatist or someone who has never examined a coin beyond its face value, This remarkable piece of American history proves that sometimes the most extraordinary opportunities come in the most ordinary forms. If you enjoyed learning about the 1964 Washington quarter, make sure to keep exploring the fascinating world of rare coins. Stay curious, keep searching, and remember that the next valuable discovery could be sitting right in your pocket, waiting for someone to recognize its true worth.